The medical wing of Space Station Rylos 9 was quiet. Dr. Alira walked down the long silver hallway, holding a glowing tablet in her hand. She was young by her species' standards and eager to prove herself. Her skin was a soft shade of violet, and her eyes glowed faintly blue in the light. She had studied medicine for 10 cycles. She could treat wounds, reset bones, and even restart hearts, but she had never treated a human dot until today. She stepped into the medical bay and stopped. The patient was lying shirtless on the exam table. His chest was covered in scars. His arms were strong. His body was different from anything she had seen before. So many muscles, so much hair. His skin was light and flushed red at the cheeks. He turned his head and looked at her. "Are you the doctor?" he asked, his voice deep but tired. "Yes," she said, trying to keep her tone calm. "I am Dr. Alira. You are Sergeant Mason?" "That's me," he said with a small smile. "Got cooked in a fire. Engine explosion." She walked closer, trying not to stare too much. "You were lucky," she said. "Your armor absorbed most of the blast." "Tell that to my ribs," he muttered. Alira activated her scanner and waved it slowly over his body. The screen lit up with red and yellow warnings. She studied the data. 2 cracked ribs. Minor burn on your left side. Bruising on the leg. Nothing life-threatening. "I've had worse," he said. She looked at him again. His heart rate was higher than normal. His temperature, too. Was he still in shock? "Are you feeling discomfort in your chest or head?" she asked. "No, not really." She scanned lower. Suddenly, the scanner beeped loudly. She blinked. Something was swelling. A soft area near the lower abdomen was showing strange blood pressure. It was growing larger. She frowned. "Strange. There is tissue expansion here." Mason's eyes opened wider. "Wait, where?" She pointed. He quickly pulled the sheet over himself and coughed. It's not what you think." Her head tilted. "It's not an infection?" He turned bright red. "No." She checked her tablet. No notes about this in the human anatomy files. No alert in the emergency manual. She narrowed her eyes. "Should treat this?" she said. "No." Mason said quickly, raising both hands. "Trust me, it's not a problem. Just a natural response." "To what?" Mason hesitated. "You," he mumbled. Her eyes widened slightly. "Me? Now?" Her own pulse rose a little. She stepped back. "You are saying your body is reacting to me?" He nodded slowly, covering his face. "It's normal for us. When we feel close or attracted." Alira blinked again. Her people didn't react like that. Attraction was chemical, slow, controlled, subtle. But this was visible, loud, embarrassing, double quotes. "Oh," she said, trying to remain professional. I see." There was a long pause. Both of them stared at the wall. Finally, she spoke again. "Perhaps I should leave for a moment." Mason nodded quickly. Yes, that would probably help. She walked toward the door, still confused. Before stepping out, she turned and looked at him again. His face was red, but he gave a small smile. "I guess I'm not your average patient," he said. "No," Alira replied. "You are not." As the door closed behind her, she let out a slow breath. So, this was human biology? She wasn't sure she was ready for it, but something inside her was curious, and curiosity was dangerous. Dr. Alira returned to the room, expecting the swelling to go down, but when she scanned him again, it had grown. And now her scanner was flashing red. She stood by the door, hesitating. Alira had treated deep burns, cracked bones, and even alien parasites. But none of those ever made her feel this nervous. Her patient, a human, was lying in the same position, half covered. By a blanket. He gave her a small, embarrassed smile as she stepped inside. I assume your readings were. Unusual, Mason said. Yes, Alira replied, holding her scanner like a weapon. I have never seen swelling in that area without trauma or infection. It's not trauma, he said quickly. It's also not an emergency. The scanner beeped again. The red light pulsed faster. Her eyes narrowed. The blood flow is still increasing. The tissue is expanding further. Mason sat up slightly, covering himself better. That's normal. It's just how human males react sometimes. To pain? He laughed softly. No. To ... attraction. Alira paused. So this is caused by me? He looked even redder. Kind of, yeah. She blinked. No medical textbook had prepared her for this. None of her professors ever said, if your patient becomes swollen in the lower region while smiling, step back immediately. Alira walked to the corner of the room, speaking mostly to herself now. Fascinating. It is a soft tissue structure that reacts to emotional stimulus, but it appears physical. Mason buried his face in his hands. I really didn't mean to make this weird. You didn't. Biology made it weird, she said seriously. She turned back toward him, lifting the scanner again. I need to understand the full process. Do I have permission to scan again? Mason froze. Can we not? She frowned. But I have so many questions. Please, he begged. Let the swelling go down on its own. She hesitated, then nodded. Very well. I will observe. From a distance. Much appreciated. She sat across the room, eyes on her datapad, but her thoughts elsewhere. Every few seconds, she glanced up at him. His breathing had slowed. His face was calmer now, but she WSN single quotes D. Her cheeks were warm strange for her species. Her heart rate was slightly elevated. And for the first time in her life, she was the one flustered. Mason looked at her carefully. You okay, Doc? Yes, she said quickly. Then, no. He raised an eyebrow. She sighed. I am not used to being the confused one. He chuckled. Welcome to Earth biology. There was a long pause. Then she asked something quietly. Does this reaction happen with all humans? Most of us, yeah? Even during medical care? Only if the doctor is, well, you. She tilted her head. Me? You're beautiful. To humans, at least. Alira didn't speak. No one had ever said that to her. Not even someone from her own kind. She stood slowly. I believe this condition will resolve itself. Mason smiled. Yes, doctor. With time. She walked to the door, but paused before. Leaving. I'll return later, she said, with more. Neutral clothing. He laughed. That might help. As the door closed, Alira leaned her back against the wall and let out a breath. This was not just a medical case anymore. This was something new, something unpredictable, and she wasn't sure she wanted it to stop. Alira ran a search through. The Galactic Medical Network. There were no entries for human swelling caused by emotional proximity. No data, no warnings, no explanation. She was officially dealing with the unknown. The lights in the medbay dimmed as Alira sat alone. Staring at her screen, she had reviewed over 300 medical files. None of them mentioned what she saw today. No. One talked about skin temperature rising from a single smile, or a heartbeat racing from the sound of a voice, or a body reacting just because someone else walked too close. To her. It wasn't science. It was personal. She tapped her chin, whispering softly. Is this a form of chemical imbalance? Or an evolutionary flaw? She typed, human emotional triggers linked to physical reactions. The screen showed only one outdated result. Primitive courtship behaviors. Courtship? She frowned. Her species didn't flirt. They selected partners through logic, genetics, and calm agreements. But humans? Their biology reacted before they even understood why. She found that dangerous and a little fascinating. A soft chime rang out. Patient 113A. Status check requested. That was Mason. She stood, adjusted her coat, and walked back to the recovery room. Inside, Mason was sitting up. A small smile touched his lips as he saw her enter. You look less confused today, he said. I'm just better at hiding it, she replied. He chuckled. That's fair. She walked closer, keeping her distance. I ran a search. There is very little written about what happened yesterday. Well, most humans don't let doctors write that part down, he said, scratching the back of his neck. She paused. So it's private? Very, but common? Yes. Alira took a breath. I see. There was silence again. Then Mason leaned forward slightly. Can I ask you something? Yes. Did it make you uncomfortable? She looked at him carefully. Her mouth opened, then closed. No, she said finally. It made me curious. Mason blinked. Curious? She nodded. Your body responds with intensity. Your emotions create change in real time. That is rare among species. He raised an eyebrow. So you're saying I'm special? She tilted her head. Your species is unpredictable. That makes you dangerous. Then, more softly, but maybe also interesting. Mason looked at her with a warm, quiet smile, and for a brief moment, Alira's fingers twitched, a small movement. But she noticed it. Another reaction, her own this time. She turned away. You should rest. Doctor's orders? Yes. Strict ones. She walked toward the door. Doctor? Mason said. She turned slightly. He smiled again. I like that you're curious. She didn't reply, but her heart did, and it beat a little faster. She reached for the scanner. He reached for the same one. Their hands touched, only for a second, but both of them pulled back like something had exploded. Dr. Alira stared at her hand. Warm got still. Tingling. It was the first time she had touched a human without gloves. Mason looked just as surprised. His hand hovered mid-her like it didn't know what to do. That was unexpected, he said quietly. Alira nodded once. Yes. Neither of them moved. The room felt smaller now. Alira stepped back and activated the scan. The machine began humming, passing slowly over Mason's chest. She watched the numbers. Heart rate rising again. Blood pressure shifting. Just like before. Still. He was calm, not afraid. Not in pain. I was trained in 50 species anatomy, she said, trying to focus. All of them predictable. And now? Mason asked. She glanced at him. You are not. The scan reached his abdomen. She paused. He looked at her. Should I warn you? She raised an eyebrow. Will there be more swelling? He smirked. Not if you keep your voice like that. She blinked. My voice? It's soothing, he said, in a strange way. Alira's cheeks glowed faintly violet. She looked away. That is not medically relevant. It is to me. She turned off the scanner. There was nothing more to study, at least. Not with tools. She stood still for a moment, as if searching for a rule in her mind. On my planet, she said, close contact is rare. Personal space is respected. Mason nodded. Same here. And yet, she added softly, you let me touch you. You didn't pull away. He looked at her carefully. Neither did you? Silence fell, but it was no longer awkward. It was close. Doctor, he said finally, do you believe biology can predict connection? She folded her hands behind her back. I believed that once, she replied. Now I'm not sure. Mason gave a gentle smile. Then maybe stop studying it like a problem. She met his eyes, and this time she didn't look away. Outside the medbay window, Stars passed in silence. Inside, two hearts, one alien, one human, were sinking in ways no scanner could explain. Asterisk, for the first time in her medical career, Dr. Alira became the patient, not from pain, not from injury, but because her heart did something strange. It skipped. She sat alone in the observation chamber, eyes fixed on the biometric mirror. It showed her own vitals in real time. Heart rate, breath, brain activity. Everything was elevated. Not dangerously. But personally. She touched her chest gently. Her fingers trembled. Her skin gave off the faint scent of Linaria pheromone, her species released only during moments of deep vulnerability. It had never happened to her before. And now it was happening. Because of a human. Mason had left the medbay briefly for a routine test. 10 minutes without him, and she couldn't think straight. She replayed the last moment between them over and over. The way his eyes didn't wander. The way he didn't speak unless it meant something. The way his hand had stayed in hers for just a breath longer than necessary. None of it was recorded in medical books, but it was all recorded in her. The door opened. She turned quickly, too quickly. Mason stood there holding a small food tray. They said I should eat something. She cleared her throat. That is wise. He sat down on the exam bed. You okay? She hesitated. I experienced something unusual, she admitted. Mason looked concerned. You're not sick, are you? No, she said softly. It's something else. Something internal. Mason tilted his head. Emotional? Alira gave a short nod. I think ... yes. Mason placed the tray down gently. I didn't mean to confuse you. You didn't confuse me, she said. Then what did I do? She looked at him carefully. You made me feel. The words felt strange in her mouth. She had said them once before, but only as a medical diagnosis. Never as truth. Mason didn't laugh. He didn't joke. He just looked at her with a calm warmth that made her chest tighten again. What are you feeling now? He asked. Alira took a slow breath. I don't know the word in your language, she said. But in mine, it means quiet longing. The silence between them wasn't awkward now. It was full of something neither of them had planned for. Mason stood up and stepped closer. She didn't step back this time. He gently held out. His hand not touching, just waiting. No scanner. No test. Just trust. Alira looked at his hand, then at her own. And slowly, carefully, she reached for his. And for the first time, her pulse changed because she wanted it to. Asterisk, she entered his room without her scanner, without her tablet, without her medical coat. This time, she wasn't there as a doctor. She was just Alira. Mason looked up as the door slid open. His eyes widened slightly, then softened. She wore something simpler today. A light robe, the color of soft moonstone, with no markings of rank or profession. No title. No tools. No distance. Just her. Evening. He said, setting his datapad aside. May I sit? She asked. You don't have to ask, he replied gently. She sat near the bed, not behind a desk, not at a terminal. Close enough to feel his warmth, close enough to hear his breathing. For a long moment, they just sat watching each other without needing to speak. It was not awkward. It was honest. I was taught emotions were distractions, Alira finally said. That closeness weakens logic, that bodies and hearts must be controlled. And do you still believe that? Mason asked. She shook her head slowly. Not anymore, he nodded. I was taught something else. That pain makes you stronger. That feelings make you human. She looked at him carefully. I never understood your kind. Not really. But now, sitting here, I think I want to. Mason leaned slightly forward. You're allowed to feel things, Alira. You're allowed to want connection. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Even with a human? He smiled. Especially with a human. The room felt warm now. Not from heat, but from something else. Kind of stillness that only happens when nothing needs to be proven anymore. She reached forward slowly and touched his hand. No scanner. No gloves. Just skin. Her fingers wrapped around his . His thumb gently brushed over hers. Their eyes met, and this time, neither of them looked away. You are not just biology, she whispered. You are not just strange chemicals and soft tissues. And you, Mason said softly, are not just logic and light. For a few minutes, no words were needed. The silence was filled with more truth than any explanation. Because now they both knew. This wasn't just chemistry. This was choice. Asterisk, he thought he was just her patient. She thought he was just another. Biological mystery. But neither expected what came next. Not just touch. Not just feelings. Something real. Mason stood by the station's large viewport, looking out at the stars. He was fully healed now, no pain, no injuries. Ready to return to duty. But part of him didn't want to go. Not because of the bed, or the quiet, or the easy days. Because of her. Alira stepped into the room, walking softly. This time, he didn't hear her until she was close. You leave tomorrow. She said, Yeah, he replied. Orders came in this morning. He didn't turn. Not yet. I thought I'd be excited, he added. But I'm not. She stood beside him, quiet for a moment. Then she said, I requested reassignment. He looked at her surprised. You did? Yes, to Earth's medical science branch. Mason smiled slowly. Why? She looked at him. No scan, no translator. Just her voice. Because when I first treated you, I didn't understand what your body was doing. She stepped a little closer. But now I do. Your biology wasn't broken. It was communicating in ways I had never seen. Not just through skin or hormones, but through trust. Mason reached out, gently taking her hand. And what is it saying now? Alira smiled small, real, glowing. It says I want you to stay close. Not as a patient, not as a study subject. She looked up into his eyes, but as someone I care about. No one else was in the room. No lights were blinking, no alarms, no uniforms between them. Just two souls from different stars. Meeting. Somewhere in the middle. Mason pulled her gently into an embrace. She rested her head on his chest, listening to the heartbeat she once scanned with confusion. Now, she understood it. Later, as they stood together at the boarding gate, Mason whispered something only she could hear. Turns out, your biology surprised me too. Alira tilted her head, curious. How? He grinned. You have a heart. She smiled. And now, part of it is yours. Asterisk the end.